Did you know that Zeus had over 100 lovers and fathered more than 50 children? That's not just ancient gossip. That's a calculated political strategy that would make modern politicians blush. But here's the shocking part. Every single one of those affairs was actually a carefully orchestrated power move that reveals the darkest secrets of divine rule. Many of you are probably wondering, how could the king of the gods be so reckless with his relationships? Well, let me tell you the story of what was really happening on Mount Olympus, because what you thought you knew about Greek mythology is about to be turned completely upside down.
You see, when we hear about Zeus seducing Europa by transforming into a bull, or Poseidon pursuing countless sea nymphs, we think we're hearing stories about lustful gods who couldn't control themselves. But here's where things get interesting. These weren't random acts of passion. They were strategic alliances disguised as love stories. Now you're probably thinking, come on, how can kidnapping someone be a political strategy? That's the real question, isn't it? And the answer lies in understanding what the Greeks really believed about power, bloodlines, and divine authority. Think about it this way. Every time Zeus had a child with a mortal woman, he was literally creating a bloodline that connected the divine realm to human civilization. These weren't just illegitimate children. They were living bridges between two worlds. Heroes like Hercules, Perseus, and Helen of Troy weren't accidents. They were strategic investments in maintaining divine influence over human affairs. Can you imagine the planning that went into this? The gods aren't acting on impulse. They were playing a multi-dimensional chess game where every move had consequences that lasted for generations.
But wait, there's more. What would you do if you discovered that the goddesses were playing this game too, but with completely different rules? While Zeus was spreading his influence through quantity, goddesses like Aphrodite were using quality, creating fewer but more strategically important connections. Take Aphrodite's affair with Ares, the god of war. Many of you are probably wondering why the goddess of love would choose the most violent god as her lover. Well, let me tell you, it wasn't about attraction. It was about creating a perfect balance of power. Love and war, creation and destruction, working together to maintain cosmic equilibrium. Do you see it? Every divine relationship was actually a carefully negotiated treaty between different aspects of existence. When Demeter had her affair with Ixion, it wasn't just romance. It was the goddess of harvest ensuring that agricultural knowledge would be passed down to humanity through their descendants. Now, you're probably thinking, but what about all the jealousy and revenge? That's where the real genius reveals itself. Hera's famous jealousy wasn't just about being a scorned wife. She was actually the enforcer of divine law, making sure that these strategic alliances didn't upset the fundamental balance of power. What would you do if your spouse's affairs were actually necessary for maintaining universal order? Can you imagine the psychological complexity of being Hera, knowing that Zeus's infidelity was both personally devastating and cosmically essential? Here's where things get really dark. Many of these love stories were actually about territorial expansion. When Poseidon pursued water nymphs across the Mediterranean, he was literally claiming dominion over new bodies of water. Each affair was a conquest, each child a claim to divine territory. But here's the most shocking revelation of all. The gods weren't just expanding their power through these relationships. They were actually preventing something much worse. You see, in the pre-Olympic era, the Titans ruled through pure force and chaos. The Olympic gods created a system where power was distributed through complex family networks instead of simple violence. That's the real question, isn't it? Were these affairs actually a more civilized way of managing cosmic power? Think about it. Instead of constant warfare between divine factions, the gods created a web of relationships that made everyone stakeholders in maintaining peace. Many of you are probably wondering about the human cost of all this divine politics. Well, let me tell you about the mortals caught in these cosmic games. when Zeus seduced Leda as a swan, or when Apollo pursued Daphne. These weren't just romantic pursuits. They were recruitment drives for the next generation of heroes and prophets who would serve divine interests. Can you imagine being chosen by a god? It sounds like an honor, but the reality was often tragic. These mortal lovers were essentially being conscripted into a divine agenda they couldn't fully understand. Now, here's where things get interesting. This system actually worked. The complex network of divine relationships created the most stable period in mythological history. Instead of the chaotic destruction of the Titan era, the Olympic period was marked by heroic quests, cultural advancement, and the development of human civilization. What would you do with this knowledge? When you read these myths now, you're not just hearing love stories, you're witnessing the most sophisticated power-sharing arrangement in ancient literature. Every affair, every jealous rage, every divine child was part of an intricate system designed to maintain cosmic balance while advancing divine interests. Do you see how brilliantly complex this really was? The Greeks weren't just telling stories about promiscuous gods. They were describing a political system so advanced that it used love, family, and desire as tools of governance. That's the dark truth behind the affairs of the Greek gods. They were never about love at all. They were about power, control, and the careful management of cosmic forces through the most human of all experiences: relationships, jealousy, and family drama. The next time someone tells you the Greek gods were just soap opera characters, you'll know the real story. They were the most sophisticated political operatives in mythological history, and their affairs were actually the blueprint for managing divine civilization itself. But here's one final twist that will completely change how you see these myths. What if I told you that this entire system was designed not just to manage power, but to eventually transfer it? Every hero born from a divine affair was actually being groomed to bridge the gap between gods and humans, slowly preparing humanity to govern itself. What would you do if you realized that the gods' ultimate plan was to make themselves obsolete? That every affair, every divine child, every mythological hero was part of a multi-generational project to evolve humanity into something that could handle cosmic responsibility. Can you imagine the foresight required to design a system that would eventually phase out divine rule in favor of human civilization? The Greek gods weren't just managing power, they were orchestrating the most elaborate succession plan in history. Now, I want to hear from you. Which divine affair do you think was the most strategically brilliant? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and tell me if you think Zeus's quantity approach or Aphrodite's quality strategy was more effective. And if this video completely changed how you see Greek mythology, smash that like button and subscribe for more hidden truths behind ancient stories. Trust me, there are so many more secrets waiting to be uncovered, and you won't want to miss what we reveal next.